Hello, and welcome to Tank Talk, the only podcast dedicated to the global bulk liquid storage industry and brought to you by Tank Storage Magazine. I'm your host, Anamika, and today we're going into the magazine archives for an episode related to critical needs and critical infrastructure. This article first appeared in the winter edition of Tank Storage Magazine and was contributed by FETSA's Executive Director, Ravi Bhatiani. So let's dive in. According to the NATO Pipeline System Conference website, the NPSC serves as a strategic platform for allied collaboration to safeguard and optimize this vital infrastructure. The inaugural conference brought together subject matter experts, decision makers, and operational leaders, including FETSA, who represents 700 terminals across Europe. While the event was an excellent opportunity to network with other organizations working to better understand this critical infrastructure, the conference sessions also address priorities such as enhancing resilience, interoperability, and operational aspects. According to NATO's own website, the pipeline system was created in response to the logistical challenges of maintaining a robust energy supply during the Cold War. The NATO pipeline system was designed to enhance the alliance's operational readiness and sustain its collective defense capabilities. Its primary role is to transport and store fuels such as jet fuel and diesel across a vast network of interconnected pipelines, pumping stations, and storage facilities spanning multiple countries. This integrated system remains a cornerstone of NATO's collective defense strategy, ensuring that fuel requirements are met efficiently under any operational scenario. FETSA terminals are generally viewed as critical infrastructure, not just for the energy provisions of a nation, but from a strategic and defense perspective. FETSA works closely with the UN, EU, NATO, IEA, and other bodies on issues such as security of supply, military mobility, transition fuels, stockpiling, and safety. FETSA also has a working relationship with the European Commission and stockpiling entities when it comes to developing the EU's energy security framework for liquid products. Liquid bulk storage represented by FETSA is approximately 136 million cubic meters. Storage in the NPS, according to NATO's own website, is 4.1 million cubic meters. This shows the importance of commercial infrastructure in a crisis response. As the consumer market moves towards lower carbon options, a high-intensity conflict scenario could also require private storage terminals to be part of the European defense logistics. For example, consumption of jet fuel and diesel by the military in a European high-intensity conflict scenario, according to FETSA's research and based on public data, is likely to require a high level of private sector participation in meeting storage requirements. But if European fuel storage has pivoted to future energy carriers, who will store the large volumes of jet fuel and diesel in this crisis? And how would this impact the European defense logistics agenda? At the time of current geopolitical volatility, both military and commercial planning must take into account the likelihood of worst-case scenarios. In all cases, this means that there would be a continued and intensive need for storage capacity of fossil products in the future. The timeline for phase-out of fossil fuels in the military does not match EU climate goals of net zero by 2050. This creates the key dilemma. There's a civil-military divergence. The civilian side shows a demand signal and investment needs in energy transition compliant products, lower carbon, renewable sources, etc. Meanwhile, the military needs remain fossil-based. However, the military does not drive storage investment decisions today. They are made according to commercial realities, which are based on energy transition demand signals. According to FETSA's research and estimation, significant volumes of fossil fuel storage will leave the market by 2030, 2040, and 2050 as we progress through the energy transition. At the same time, 2030 is seen in public EU policy documents, known as Readiness 2030, as the timeline for worst-case scenarios crystallizing. So, while the commercial arms of storage terminals are working towards a cleaner, greener future, it's possible that governments will expect that fossil fuel storage is readily available in a crisis. But if these storages have been phased out, as is forecast today, that infrastructure will be lost. It will not be rebuilt. Consumers and customers will have pivoted to new fuels and feedstocks, and governments will be missing critical assets that have been phased down. So how can we solve this? Global collaboration has been a cornerstone of both NATO and the wider commercial market for decades. Diplomacy and engagement are complementary to preparedness and deterrence. In the same vein, cross-sector collaboration will be critical to ensure Europe's military logistics needs are taken into account as we pursue the energy transition. The European Commission has already implemented the Oil Stocks Directive, ensuring that any EU member state must maintain a minimum stocks of crude oil and/or petroleum products. This is generally for the supply chain security for civilian consumption, so for example in transport or industrial processes. But could a higher stocks target bolster security for the military too? If the aim of strategic stockholding is for these products to be used in an urgent case or local crisis, i.e. disruptions in the supply of natural gas which require fuel switching, then a worst-case military scenario would also be relevant for scenario planning. The review of the EU energy security framework is also important to prepare for worst-case scenarios. There are no EU-mandated stocks for gas or LNG, nor for alternative energy carriers such as sustainable aviation fuel or SAF, biofuels feedstocks, hydrogen, or liquids that can be used to store hydrogen more easily, so things like liquid organic hydrogen carriers, ammonia, methanol. Although the Oil Stocks Directive covers to some extent the storage of biofuels, there are also no EU-mandated stocks for low-carbon or renewable liquid fuels, which could easily offer a substitute for refined products, so synthetic fuels and e-fuels. There is still good news, however. The European Parliament has discussed a review into the directive and overall energy security of supply. FETSA and EUPEI released a joint statement on this topic in July 2025, welcoming the comprehensive and forward-looking approach to strengthening Europe's energy security framework. For one, the draft resolution specifically called for a review of the Oil Stocks Directive to better reflect evolving risk profiles and energy needs, a hugely positive step. The resolution also acknowledges the strategic role of NATO in Europe's future energy security architecture. Moreover, it emphasizes the importance of dual-use infrastructure, promoting greater synergy between civilian and military preparedness. Strengthening these shared systems improves overall resilience because the same robust infrastructure helps keep society running smoothly and also supports security and defense needs. A deeper collaboration between the military and civilian sector must take place, whether this is through bringing together all players in energy logistics and ultimately coordinating exchanges between civilian and military players and defense authorities, or through cross-border cooperation to ensure the stability, efficiency, and security of supply. As energy systems become more connected across borders, acting alone often creates inefficiencies, market distortions, and new supply risks. Cooperation should not be limited to network infrastructure and emergency response tools, even though these remain essential for preventing congestion, improving flexibility, and making better use of resources across regions. National choices to remove generation capacity, such as closing nuclear power plants, can strongly affect the availability and affordability of energy in neighbouring countries. In some cases, these impacts are significant enough that countries consider shielding their markets from wider EU energy influences. Energy security is increasingly a shared responsibility among EU member states, and decisions of this scale call for a much closer coordination. Bridging the gap between civilian infrastructure and commercial demands versus that of the military in a worst-case scenario will be essential to ensure that Europe's evolving energy system remains both resilient and secure. FETSA is the Federation of European Tank Storage Associations and represents European national tank storage associations and companies that operate in bulk liquid storage. For more information, visit www.fetsa.eu. Thank you for listening to this bite-sized episode of Tank Talk. We'll be back soon with more insights, analysis, and exclusives from the global tank storage industry. Subscribe at www.tankstorage.com for instant access to our magazine and follow us on social media. Don't forget to like and share the podcast, and we'll see you next time.